I'm launching a new business. It's called getmywebsite.io, and really what we're doing is I'm creating templates for HVAC businesses, trades more or less, so electricians, plumbers, etc. I want to have like a really smooth, good website for people who don't have them, but not too expensive. So I was thinking about creating them for about $249. And so I wanted to show you my entire process. Like, creating websites nowadays with like Claude Code or Codex and ChatGPT, there's a good way and there's a bad way to do it. Like, AIs are not human. They don't think like us. They don't build things like us. And I want to create something that actually works and is built for humans. And what that means is, like, good websites like this one have a lot of small things, and notably small interactions, micro interactions, copy that doesn't sound like a robot wrote it, clarity, small things, animations, colors, but without being too much, right? To me, that's what defines a good website from a tech perspective. And then there's a question of understanding why people come to your website, right? And in most contexts for trades, people are coming to a website because they have a problem, right? They want to either get service done, or they want to learn more about it, or they want to fix an urgent problem. So certain things are really important, like the call number is really important. The assessment, I find, is really important as well. Like, you have to give people information in order to build trust. So I was thinking, okay, I want to sell these websites. Now I need to build a website to sell the websites, because somewhere the website acts like a first step. I find websites are an amazing way, a tool to take your business and grow it. I guess first thing I do when I enter a new project like this is very much, I try to plan things out. So I know that there's always going to be a whole element of logo and branding when I launch any business. I'm also going to need to think about the website itself. So this, I'm talking about the components. And then there's also going to be a whole component of hosting and CDN. So more or less, how do I get it online at that point? There's a bunch of other subcomponents, but this is the I guess tech side of it. And then there's also the whole business plans. Like, I find that it's really important to have a very good idea of where, like, the business is going in terms of who am I servicing, how am I servicing them, what's the kind of the process I want them to go through in order to get to the result I want. Oftentimes it's a purchasing decision. Like, I want them to either be convinced enough to try this out, or purchase, or do a free trial. Like, there's a lot of ways to get like the result that you want. But so these are really the elements. I'm certainly missing some right now, but these are like the basic stuff. Each of these, I need to emphasize, each of these is a profession. Like, you can become a designer that does only logos or only branding. You can be a front-end dev that does only websites and components. You can be a database administrator that does only hosting. Like, these, I feel like we're in the age of the generalists, where AI allows you to do all of it because it can fill in the gaps. But understand that each of these components has so much depth. You can just go and go and go, and there's always more to learn. But my goal right now is to break that away and say, hey, if I had to start a new business right now and make it look really high quality, like $1 million business, what would I do? And this is kind of my goal here. So first thing I do in this kind of situation is I'm going to find a template. I try not to start from scratch. And what I mean template is, here, this is one of my favorites. It's Ace Ternity, which is this wonderful designer based in India, and he creates these really nice templates. And I'm going to be using this one as a baseline for the current business I'm creating. So you can see here, components are really fluid. It's certain that I'm not going to use all these components, because Not all of them are relevant to the business I'm making. I don't like certain features. I'm not making an agent website in any way, but it's a really good base in terms of structure. I know that it's responsive because he works on that and makes it good. So you see, there's all these micro interactions I'm talking about. So these are the things I really look for, and I'll oftentimes complement it with something like a component library. This is one of the most common ones called ShadCN. ShadCN is just a bunch of components that you can use which have all the elements, right? They're perfectly working code that allows you to easily import it into your project and make something with it. Now, the first thing I did actually before starting this video was to download that initial prompt. So I went to this. This is a paid template, by the way. Like there are some good free templates out there, but I do find that if you want quality, you're going to need to pay for it. You can get by without it. Honestly, you can really get by without it, but it saves so much headache to just purchase a good React template. Once I have this downloaded, so this is where I was showing here, I have this downloaded. I'm going to actually launch a new instance of Claude within. So here, what I did was, I can actually just exit out of this to show you, but here, when I'm on, I can open a new terminal like this, and I can say, okay, I created the Get My Website directory. So I'm going to go get tab, Get My Website, and I land in the Get My Website repository, and I can call up Claude. There's a lot of preamble here. There's guides on how to install Claude on your computer. I do recommend you follow these. This is just where I start in terms of a project. Now, I did a bit of work prior to starting this project, which was what I call a PRD, which is more or less a set of guidelines in terms of the project, in like what direction I'm going, what the business plan is, etc. It's kind of a few of the components I was talking about here. What am I planning to use in terms of website components? What am I planning to do in terms of hosting? And all of that is found within this PRD. So let's open that up. So I'm going to ask him to open up the getmywebsite.io.prd with VS Code. And what's awesome about Claude is you can actually allow it to do a whole bunch of stuff. And I really do use Claude as my companion in terms of building websites out. I find it really useful to, just a second, get this over here. I find it really useful in terms of working with it as a partner. So I ask it to do stuff. I evaluate what it's done. And here you can see that I have very much the version, the PRD, a bit of the executive summary of what I'm doing, the target audience, the primary persona, Joe the HVAC owner, a bit of the site architecture. So I'm thinking about the main landing page from SMS traffic, the onboarding flow, the success page when they've done their payment, examples. So I have to show my work. I have to show what they'll be getting for that amount, potential upsells, and maybe an automation that I can do down the road because that's my current business. I have here some specifications page by page. I've went ahead and defined the sections, the credibility section. So this is the testimonials, the form, the desire. So very much what am I selling in terms of what's the copywriting. I've spent, I'd say, approximately 2 hours on this document. I've written some of it, and then the rest has been filled in by Claude. So for example, there's some JavaScript that I had Claude write for me. I had him go ahead, or them go ahead and create some API calls. How am I going to be interacting with Stripe? I had them go ahead and create an initial outline of my database. So I'll be using Supabase for this project. And you see, this is really the initial get-go of creating an app. And there's all the elements that I'm defining here. I'm happy to define a bit more what this is, but my goal is to show that when you go into these kinds of projects, I find having a plan ahead of time saves you a lot of headache down the road. The first thing I got to do once I've opened up my PRD and I've seen that is actually to initiate the repository and give Claude the context it needs to actually succeed at building out the entire website with me. It's an iterative process. Like, you don't get to a good website on the first shot. There is no such thing as a one shot when it comes to these kinds of things in my experience. It takes multiple rounds of improvements before you get to something that's really good. So note that I'll be using Flow, Whisper Flow, in order to talk instead of typing because it's so much easier. So let's initiate this repository. I've got Get My Website IO PRD as a baseline. I'd like you to create a very succinct CLAUDE.md document as a base for this project. Please note that I'd like you to emphasize low token count and just have the essential elements. Base yourself off of Anthropic's best practices and create a CLAUDE.md that's going to help us build out this website as efficiently as possible. And so I don't care too much about spelling mistakes with regards to this. It's really just about giving Claude a bit more context to how I work, and really starting on a really good fundamental. The next thing I'm going to be doing, I'm talking while this thing is running, but the next thing I'll be doing is initiating a GitHub repo. The reason I do this this early is very much because it's very easy to do too much while you're developing a website and need to come back to a previous version of your work. And so having version control, which is what GitHub is, from the get-go is super, super easy. So here I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, CLAUDE.md, mobile first landing page, project context, tech stack, key rules, copy guidelines. I'm going to need to give it, please add the essential commands you'll need. And in order to do that, I'm going to actually go to Anthropic's CLAUDE.md, Claude Quick Starts, and I'm going to copy this. Here's an example. So I'm giving it some context. I always find that AI works so much more efficiently if you give it context instead of just trying to do things by itself. I find that giving it the proper process really makes things much more efficient. So here, let's look at this. CLAUDE.md, code style, much better. It's got, wonderful. It's got actually the commands now. It's got a bit more about the site structure, but it is keeping things very lean in terms of the entire process. So this is wonderful. I'm very happy, and it will create the CLAUDE.md document. Now, the next thing I'll need to do is absolutely go to my GitHub and create a new repository specifically for this. So what I like to do is you can either go here and create a new repository from your GitHub account, or you can ask Claude to do it. So let's initiate a new GitHub. Give me the commands that I need in order to use the CLI to post to GitHub. CLI, for those who don't know, means command line interface. In Windows, that's the PowerShell, and in Mac, that's the terminal. To me, it's the best way to use coding agents, and it's so much more, it's much easier to do, I find, than anything else. What I mean by that is that the CLI allows you to give more power to the AI, yet remain in control in terms of deciding when it's the right time to use the capabilities or not. Go ahead and initiate the Git. Let's see if it understands me. This is one of those things about, you see, I love this. Because voice agents are becoming much more popular, I think it understands the context a lot more and is able to just do the right thing, which I find awesome. So right now we're gonna go through with this. We're gonna make sure that the GitHub is set up, and I'll bring you guys back once it's done. So we have our GitHub that's finally been set up. It didn't take too long, honestly. I just took a little break after. So it created the GitHub, it created the entire repo, and then uploaded onto Git. So we have everything. A few things that I realize at this point is, okay, I've got my basic structure, I've got my basics template, and now it's a question of planning, right? If I come back to this thing, I've got my basic structure, but I don't yet have landing, logo and branding. I don't really yet have the components or the hosting set up. What I do have right now is within the website aspect of things, I have the template, and underneath that, I have the version control through GitHub. GitHub, as well as a basic CLAUDE.md file, which is going to act a bit as my business plan. So as you can see, I've got a few things that are starting, but I'm still waiting on, I really need to start building out the website itself. So I'm going to leave it at this for this video. And in the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building out the actual brand that I want to build, as well as designing a bit more, at least some wireframing of the structure of the page and how I'm going to go from my template into something that I've imagined. So I hope this is useful to you. It's very much, I'm trying to show the actual process of building this. I expect this project to take, if I wasn't recording, I think it would take approximately 8 to 10 hours to produce this kind of website. With recording, I think it'll take about twice that time, but it's really, it's about a day's work. Like it's some solid work where you have to sit down. You can go into more or less amount of details. Like I could go ahead and create a whole mock-up in Figma, and I have done that previously in other projects. So I had a large, here, if I look here, I had a very large website redesign project that I did, not for Edison, but for this one. And so when I went into that, when I was creating this website, I had a lot more. So this was like my first version of the website I created. Then I worked with a creative team to actually end up building out this version of the website. So like you can go into a lot of details when you're creating a website. I don't feel like it's necessary anymore to do this, especially not if you have a, like, not this kind of business. This is, if I were going to price this kind of website, it'd be much more like several tens of thousands of dollars of work. It's not really something that's reasonable to do for a website that I'm whipping up in 24 hours, right? So this is much more, I'm going to take out a piece of paper, sketch it out, figure out exactly what I want. And then from there, I'm then going to start looking into like a simple logo, simple branding. I could use an AI generator for this, but I'd rather do something a bit more custom. And I'll go from there. If you have any questions, write them down in the comments. I'd be happy to respond to them, and hope you're looking forward to the next one and building this out with me.